and let us all do we can to build a better future. So let's talk about train derailments. Train safety. Norfolk Southern employee dies after collision between a train and a dump truck in Cleveland. And the Senate is now hearing from Norfolk Southern president. Pete Buttigieg. This is your backyard, right? What's going on there, Pete? Old Thomas the Train Engine is not happy with your track record. So many derailments. All of his friends are dying. Come on, Pete. Don't make me get Thomas and his friends on you. So let's find out what's going on.
This morning, more tragic news involving rail company Norfolk Southern. A Norfolk Southern conductor.
More tragic news? No. Report as is. Once again, Norfolk Southern is putting the safety of American communities at risk. I don't know. Maybe word it that way.
Died today after a collision between a train and a dump truck at a crossing in Cleveland. It comes as the company is already under intense pressure after 4 train derailments in Ohio over the last 5 months, including the train that spilled toxic chemicals in East Palestine last month. On Thursday, CEO Alan Shaw will be in the hot seat when he testifies before the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. And
this is the guy. The head of charge of the corporation has been cutting corners. Trust me, on these corporations, if they want to cut corners, they will. They're cheap. There's a famous line in the film Casino where Robert De Niro's character is saying about rich people. Rich people are cheap. They're very, very cheap people. Very cheap people. They'll cut corners if they want to. They'll do it.
With me now is Massachusetts Democratic Senator Ed Markey, who serves on that committee. Senator, thank you for joining us.
No, great to be with you.
What questions do you have for Alan Shaw? And are these incidents so close to one another indicative of a larger problem, either company-wide or industry-wide?
Well, it's industry-wide, and this specific company is a perfect example of what's gone wrong with rail safety in our country.
Oh, yeah, our wonderful Senator Ed Markey. How you doing there, buddy? What are you guys going to do different this time around?
So at this hearing, I'm going to want to know what went wrong.
What went wrong is that these corporations are buying your fantastic friends, probably you too, buddy, and just saying, hey, look the other way. And of course, the politicians being good little hookers. You know what? I take that back. I should not compare politicians to hookers. That's a disrespect to hookers. These politicians being the scumbag swamp crap that they are. And that's an insult to swamps. So, these politicians being these inhuman monsters are more than happy to take that money. I mean, this has been going on for years, Eddie. Maybe it's you and your fantastic friends in the Senate and the House that are allowing this corporation to cut corners and put the American people and communities at risk. I don't know. Put me in the game, coach. I'll show you how to get things done, Julius Caesar style, crossing the Rubicon.
What are the guarantees that it will never happen again? And what is going to be done to guarantee that the families and the businesses in East Palestine, especially, are given the compensation that they need, not just in the near term, but in the long term, because the harm to this community is going to go on for some extended period of time.
Senator, we know with the first derailment in East Palestine, those bearings got really hot. Do we have any indication of whether that was a factor here in this subsequent derailment that we heard of, in which no toxic chemicals were released into the soil?
Well, we're going to have a hearing in order to...
They're going to have a hearing, to have a committee, to have a subcommittee, to have another hearing, to have a vote for another vote, to wait for another committee, to agree on a vote. A whole lot of yap.
Establish that, but it looks pretty clear that played a big role in what happened. And again, this is a man-made problem. This didn't happen because of an inadequacy of equipment. It was an inadequacy of a railroad and the personnel who should have been working for that railroad to identify this problem so that it did not harm the community. So from our perspective, this is going to be the moment where we put Norfolk Southern under oath, but it's to determine what we have to do in order to pass strong legislation like Senator Sherrod Brown's legislation to provide real safety.
Let's talk about what's going to happen to the people of East Palestine, Ohio. They're not going to get jack from this Congress. I mean, what? probably Norfolk Southern's going to get a little slap on the wrist. Already what they were talking about, what, giving $1,000 to each of the family members. Oh, wow. $1,000. $1,000? That ain't jack. There's a thing called, I don't know, long-term health consequences. Water being permanently contaminated, soil being permanently contaminated. Is the air still safe to breathe? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the people of East Palestine need help. You know, it's ironic is you'd think this administration would get there right away, but again, they didn't. Trump showed up there, but hey, Trump knows how to take advantage of a good crisis. And Ohio is a key electoral state, so, I'll probably go red again. And hey, the people were abandoned. All what the Biden-Harris administration sent was Pete Buttigieg. And and look, let's face it, he did look like he was 150 pounds wet carrying that little vest on. Didn't know what he was doing. And again, I played on yesterday's show. He gave a word salad on whether or not Norfolk Southern is going to follow these new demands, right? Was it good enough? He gave a word salad. There was no yes or no answer.
Protections for the American public. There are more than 1,000 train derailments per year in our country. 1,000. And for too many of these companies, they think that paying a fine is just like paying a parking ticket.
And who made that possible, Eddie? Senator Ed. Senator Ed, and Eddie. Who made that possible? Gee, who wrote legislation to benefit these corporations? What branch of the federal government made sure that Citizens United in McCutcheon's decision would allow the corporations to be treated as people? That money is speech. It's like our own politicians in government made it so. Dude, you're the murderer. And your fantastic friends.
And it's so small, the fine, that it's the cost of doing business. We're going to have to put stronger rules on the books. We're going to have to increase the fines to provide a sufficient deterrent so that these accidents don't happen again.
On this, but what also will you do as a senator to make sure the people of East Palestine aren't forgotten?
Oh, God. Were the people who were hit by Hurricane Katrina, were they forgotten? Yes. Were people hit by any other environmental crisis forgotten in here in the United States? Yes. Unfortunately, our Senate and House of Representatives aren't going to do jack for any American. Look what they did to the people of Flint, Michigan. They still don't have clean drinking water. The people of the state of Hawaii, their underground reservoirs have been contaminated. Chicago has lead in its drinking water. What's it going to take to get people in the game? It doesn't matter who sits in the White House. Nothing will fundamentally change, folks, until we say enough.
Well, we're going to make sure.
We're going to make sure. Well, we're going to make sure. God.
Norfolk Southern not only pays in the short run for the hotel rooms, for the transportation for these people to move to other cities temporarily, but long term, the property values in East Palestine are being destroyed. Yeah. And Norfolk Southern.
And you know what that means? Real estate developers and rich people have billions of dollars can then buy the land cheaply and then, well, turn it to whatever they want. You know, we had a revolution here in America, supposedly to free ourselves from a tyrant king. But there's an infamous line in The Patriot where Mel Gibson says, look, The Patriot is whatever. It's an all right film. He says, why should I trade one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away? We're a land of oligarchs. And look, we've given up everything to become this land of the rich. They're buying up all the land, all the properties, owning a home in America. Well, you can have a company town. How does it sound for all of you? You will own nothing and be happy.
Is responsible, and
people of East Palestine, Ohio, whatever. Hold on, before I move on to the next segment. People of East Palestine, Ohio, hold on to your property records and defend it. You're all going to have to work together because I'm willing to bet some corporate or billionaire jagoff or some private equity firm is going to come in there and try and take your properties and land. They're going to try and screw you over. Y'all got to work together. Be ready, because I've seen this happen here in Chicago, too, when the large real estate developers come into the South Side and West Side neighborhoods to start displacing people. Y'all, people, if we have people in our audience from Ohio, or if you know anyone in East Palestine, Ohio, tell them to make sure they have all their property records maintained and be ready, because that's how these vultures work.
Have to pay these families, these small businesses, for the harm which they've done to them. We're going to make sure they do that.
Senator Ed Markey, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time, sir.
Glad to be with you.
Yeah, scumbag politician, whatever. So I played this video on yesterday's show, but it's an only point that maybe we share it with all of you again one more time. Hey, Norfolk Southern released new rail safety plan. The plan doesn't include the changes the Biden administration has been calling for, such as upgrading to a faster braking system and paying for worker sick leave. Here, shout out again to Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. I want to play this video again for all of you.
Norfolk Southern is making changes following the derailment of 2 of its trains in Ohio. Over the weekend, 28 cars went off the track in Springfield 1 month after a train derailed near the Pennsylvania border, spilling toxic chemicals in East Palestine. The rail company yesterday released a 6-point safety plan calling for the improvement of hot bearing detectors on the tracks. The National Transportation Safety Board's preliminary report in the East Palestine crash cited an overheated wheel bearing as a potential cause, saying the sensors on the tracks should have notified the crew earlier. The plan does not include the changes the Biden administration had been calling for, such as upgrading to a faster braking system and paying workers sick leave. All this comes just days before Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw is set to testify before the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. Norfolk Southern is making changes following the derailment of 2 of its...
Nothing's going to fundamentally change. Nothing is going to fundamentally change until we say enough. These politicians built this nightmare, and we're paying the cost of it. No more.